Luca Nation, a really special guest, continuing on with our National Treasure series. I don't know if you've been watching, Jason, but it's a series of different takes, different personalities, different people in the hobby who are at National, and we're able to share, what they liked, what they didn't like, cards they picked up, parties they went to, people they met. We like to do it towards the end like flowers, someone you think is doing things really well on the come up. Guys, first, the man in front of me, if you want to hear his origin story, it's not happening today because we already did that. Remember that episode? April 14th. So if you want to go back, that was episode 1 with Jason. Today's the sequel, and I think it's going to be fun. He's drinking. This guy, to get him on a show, it's a post 10 p.m. type of vibe. He's a poker player, all that stuff. So we'll get his story here today. Jason, Otias Sports, welcome back to Lucas Tigers and Bronzo, my show.
I really appreciate you guys always having me on. It's a lot of fun. I love fitting you in. I got this crazy schedule, so yeah, nighttime works, but now everyone's in bed, and I'm here to rock and roll as long as we need to go.
I gotta tell you, I feel woefully inadequate right now on the show. I have kids are sleeping. It's late. I have a Santa Claus costume somewhere. I feel like I should go get the beard to kind of keep up with you two guys. I got like the Duke Blue Devil over here. You look like you just finished churning butter or something for the last 3 hours. I mean, that's just a glorious Amish looking thing you got going on.
It's in style, actually.
I shaved today. I shouldn't have done this. I should have left it scruffy or something. No? You guys look looking sharp.
My wife's been begging me. She doesn't want me to shave it. She just wants me to
clean it up.
Get it a little less crazy, but yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, look, I feel like I don't fit in, but it's all right.
It's actually when you start getting a double chin, it covers it up. So that's like when you're gaining weight, wear a beard.
You were on the Buster Show in January 29th of last year, and you were like, this is what you said. I have this Piotr Maravich PSA 9. I think people are going to move to vintage. This craziness with modern is going to play itself out. Cage, fast forward, we got the vibe at National. It was mantle crazy, right? It was vintage crazy. All right, so what are you seeing now? That was 18 months ago. 18 months fast forward. What are you seeing coming up in the hobby in cards?
I mean, I've been 85% vintage for as long as I've been preaching. Like, I obviously have bought Durant and Curry and stuff, but like most of that is flipping, and I'll hold some of it because I think it's okay to hold some of like the GOAT players, but definitely like I'm scared shitless of people that have come in the hobby and they're putting all these money. Like, I just saw a stat a couple days ago that said there's over 1,000 Trevor Lawrence one-of-ones already, which is pretty wild. So it makes me feel even more bullish on vintage, and that's where everybody should go. That's where I am. Yeah.
Do you think that is because Panini sees the writing on the wall and they're saying, hey, we have the demand, let's print the parallels, right?
Panini actually cut his video there, but he's back now.
Was that me or you?
They're everywhere.
Was that my end? Or?
No, I have exceptional internet since I moved back to the States. It was the priority. Tulum was crazy, man. I remember they would just like cut it off like that on me. I think they were playing pranks, but you're back. So they have these 1,000 parallels. I'm curious. Do you think that is because Panini is seeing the writing on the wall and they're like, hey, we have the demand. 2025, we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to release elephant scales and people are going to love it.
I'm scared for the people. I honestly am scared. Like, I think it definitely feels when you have a modern card in hand, it's like a hot potato. And when I say modern, I mean like 2018. Like, I still feel good about like, if you have a LeBron Exquisite or a Curry National Treasures, like, I'm sure you guys have seen like Curry National Treasure keeps popping up every auction and people are freaking out. But like, that's a card that you can't blame somebody who bought one for 25 grand and is cashing out at 300,000 or 400,000 because that's now going into a new collector's hand where their cost basis is, $500,000. So it just kind of resets and stuff will be a little volatile for a bit. And I think it'll settle in, and that really, really good stuff will, that'll be fine. The scary stuff is paying $100,000 for a Mac Jones one-of-one who's like a top 25 quarterback. It's like I'm not big on Mac Jones. I mean, people are paying $100,000 for Zion cards. I think he's going to be amazing still, but like there's a chance that he never plays. Like could be a Greg Oden, like the guy goes down 95%. And I don't think people really understand like the risk reward on that kind of stuff. Like a Jordan 10 right now, to me, is a lot. So there's a floor there at least. Like there's enough people. There's 300 million, millionaires out there that are willing to buy a Jordan 10 right now, and Jordan can't do anything crazy. I mean, I guess he could do something crazy, but it probably.
I don't know if you know this stat. I want to tell you a stat about Jason. I could not believe this when I saw this. So this man has cracked, tell me if I'm wrong, 500 PSA 9s of the Jordan Fleer?
I've cracked a lot, yeah. And I've cracked a lot of boxes, too. I probably cracked 300 or 400 boxes of 86 Fleer.
Have you seen the news with Whatnot, Ken Golden, the BCCE packs, and the order that they were coming out at National? Have you seen that news?
It just
came up. Get weird after 10. You know this.
It just came up. I didn't honestly. I saw something about. I saw Card Porn had posted something about the sequence being off, and I had a few people text me. They're like, they didn't understand what was wrong, and I said, well, the sequence is off, and they're like, well, what's wrong with that? I'm like, well, basically, people would pretend like you buy 5 boxes, you open 5 boxes, you pull all the centered cards out, then you put 4 boxes back together, and then you sell those 4 boxes. So you've now cherry picked the cream of the crop for grading, because 86 Fleer comes out of boxes, gem mint, as long as it's centered, and then obviously print. But centering is an issue. So if you hit a centering run, you would keep all the centered cards. And then the problem with these guys did, and I'm guessing, I honestly, I just saw this like a few hours ago. I'm guessing they pieced together the boxes incorrectly, because I said there were Jordans in there, I guess, right?
I think what they did actually was they bought a couple sets. Mid to low grade sets. And then what they did was they put them back in the packs in number order. And Andrew, I don't know if you know this or not, but that said number order is also alphabetical, which is why they show up Johnson, why Ryan Johnson pulled a pack that had 5 Johnsons in it, right? Which is just an amazing, ridiculous thing, right? So what winds up happening is I think it's a 66 is the 86 Fleer. It's a 66. So like, the packs will be card number 32 will then have card number 98, then card number 31 and card number 97, then card number 30, then card number 96. That'll be the normal flow. Sometimes they flip and they'll go the other direction, but there's a 66 gap in between normally. So you can kind of predict when the Jordan is, number 57, when he's going to show up and the whole deal. And that's why people are like, oh, it's a Jordan. This one here was not that sequence at all. It was basically like somebody took a set and took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put it in a pack, sealed it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put it in a pack, sealed it up. And several times, the Johnson pack, there were 2 of them like that.
And the sequence is always right. I used to know this. I haven't cracked boxes. It's a horrible break now. Like I cracked all mine in like 99 to 04, and they were like 12 to 15,000 a box. But the sequence was always on point. Like when you saw Clark Kellogg, like Jordan was next. Yeah. And that's why when I watch these videos, it cracks me up. People, they see Clark Kellogg and like nobody's freaking out yet. It's like, guys, get excited. And then like they go to them, they're like, oh my God, it's Jordan. It's like, no shit. But yeah, so I didn't know
it. People who know this know it. Like what was the code for Tyson?
I remember Contra. It wasn't Contra up, down, left, right. No.
Left,
BAB select start. Yeah. No, that was
007 373 5963. Gets you right to Mike Tyson, straight out of the game. Like people remember these things. I remember this stupidity. That's Mike Tyson's punch out, Andrew.
I used to know a lot. I used to know a lot of them, but this I'm a little.
He's like, I remember it 2 hours and 2 bottles of wine ago.
Jason, it's a good point though. There's a lot of new people coming into the hobby. Like we judge the hobby sometimes by card prices, but not by demand. Yeah. But I think at the show, like you see, there's a ton of kids at the show. There's a ton of new people at the show. I don't think there's any problem if you put on half decent show anywhere across America to really get a crowd. I think
I would say the hobby is like, even with where the economy's dipped in the last year, the hobby is so strong. Like even though prices have come down, I mean, they've kind of come down accordingly with stocks, crypto. Like it's not like it's like some weird thing like why are cards dipping. Also like one of the things that I struggle with is another reason I like vintage is every year, and I don't know what the exact value is, but there's like hundreds of millions of dollars of cards that are coming out every year between football, basketball, baseball, and all that money either needs to be new money coming in or selling old stuff. So like I think the hobby's actually handled it really well. And stuff got too crazy like in February 2021 anyways. Like it was out of control. We obviously all wish it stayed at that, but we all kind of knew that was silly. Stuff has come down to what are still crazy prices. But yeah, I think the hobby, like when you look around the National, the place, we can go good national stories and bad national stories, but the room was packed with like kids. I mean, it was, for being in Atlantic City, it was pretty exciting.
Give me your top national story. The one that comes to mind.
Seeing Cage in the bathroom.
Yeah,
elbow
just
buddies,
a man
yes.
I met in the men's room.
Top story. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like the National was awesome. I have more negative stories this year just because Atlantic City is such a shithole. Like it's just such a shithole. Can I swear in here? It's just
okay. I think it's been a consistent theme, Jason.
You stayed in the Claridge.
You're
allowed to curse about it. Go right ahead.
Well, and the good news, I actually made a bet. I gave someone 250 to 1 odds. They gave me $3,000. So if anybody ever, I am not allowed to step foot in Atlantic City ever again for the rest of my life. So if I do, I owe this person $750,000. So if anybody ever sees me in Atlantic City,
yeah, but dude, it's America here. We love a comeback. Once a star, always a threat, Jason. You know that. Come on.
I can't step foot. I wanted to make that bet.
Someone can turn that city around. You get a good mayor in there. That city has potential. You're on the beach with casinos, pool bars. You got everything there.
We rented a beach house, and everything was fine up until the last night. And the last night, I hear like a pop, and me living in the suburbs, I'm like, I was like, fireworks. I open this front door. Boom, 2 more pops. It's like, those aren't fireworks. We dive on the ground. I see red and light sirens going nuts. I was like, oh my God, there's a shooting out in front of our house. Like, and every day driving from the house to the show, I was like,
they're just settling a dispute.
No, they were getting a parking spot.
Yeah, well, that too.
You needed a gun. You needed a gun for that.
Like, how is it not in Chicago every year? Like, you literally, you pull in on Tuesday, you park your car, you stay in one of the hotels across the street, you go to the parties, you eat at the restaurants, you don't have to get in your car for a week. It's like, all right, you're getting me started already.
No, this is good. I'm just for Detroit guy. I'm surprised to hear it. It's a what's the sound? The gunshots. What's a little bit of a tougher area,
Honestly, the parking is more the parking situation, yes. the hotel situation. Doesn't Chicago have carpet too? Like, am I forgetting that? Like, there's more carpet.
You mean
only in the corporate area? But here's the catch.
The Chicago show had no carpet. Anyway.
Had no carpet?
No, Mint Collective had carpet. If you had the
I'm thinking of Mint. Like carpet is such a no-brainer. Like when you're I mean, on your joints, that shit. I mean, it hurts. Like when you're walking around all day, like it's a big deal. Like we on the booth, we had a booth set up. We went and bought like these foam things from Lowe's to stand on because it was a game changer.
Jason, do you remember when LeBron, I think it was 2012 or 2013, he got cramps right in like it was the finals, right? Remember that? He had like be carried off. How does Gary lose his voice at that stage, right? I would compare that to LeBron getting the cramps in the finals. Like you're prepping all year for this. You're ready to rock and roll. You keynote to get those vocal cords going. And then national. Talk to me.
I went out to dinner the 3 nights in a row with him while he was there. And like, it was like, he'd lean in, he's like whispering in my ear. I mean, the guy's doing a lot of keynotes. He helicoptered out Friday night to go to a keynote like 8 hours away. He's a maniac. Like his life, I do not wish that lifestyle upon anybody. Like it's crazy. I don't know how those guys do it. I mean, I know he sleeps, but I would never want to be like on a calendar schedule like that. It would be driving me nuts. I mean, I'm pretty busy, and his work ethic makes me look like I'm lazy.
I don't believe it. I don't believe he helicoptered out to a keynote. I believe he helicoptered out late Friday night to go to a garage sale early Saturday morning because I saw him come back Saturday afternoon with a whole bunch of mugs.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I know what was going on.
It might be old footage, but yeah, he. I'm sure he would have been happier at the garage sale for sure.
Oh man, fun stuff. They didn't recognize Andrew. Andrew worked for him. They didn't even recognize him.
Well, I tried a new tactic this year. I went hat, beard, and glasses. Because you got to go in with a. I'm someone that's easily distracted. So if I don't go in with a mission, I'm not gonna get anything done. This year I wanted to do some deals. I didn't want all my fans right, left, running to me, getting autographs. What would be the point of that? That's not fun for anybody.
Did you rap, though? Did you try to rap for Gary, Andrew?
That was funny. I introduced Lamim to Gary. So did you get a chance to see the SGC 9.5 mantle? I feel like you're going to have an opinion on this. What's your thoughts when you saw it in person?
I have no opinion on it.
None.
No opinion.
Wow.
Well,
it's an amazing card.
Somebody once told him, if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all.
It's a nice card.
Kind of vibe.
I love SGC. I love SGC. To me, SGC and like I own a grading company. SGC is the most accurate grading company there is. Like, I mean, we're pretty darn accurate too, but like we don't have name recognition yet with ISA. But like, you know, it is what it is. PSA is, you know, the monopoly of our business. SGC is amazing, and then it kind of goes downhill from there. It's a great card. It's an amazing card. It's, you know, I think. So I know the history. Like a lot of people don't know. Like, so I actually bought Al. So Al didn't have a lot of money. So there was like a 10-year run where me and a friend bankrolled Al, and every deal that Al got, we got, and like Al just made 15%. So like I knew of the card. I remember like I just didn't know when it was going to surface and all this stuff. So like I knew, you know, I got a ton of stuff from Al. Like he was a very bitter Jewish man who was, you know, he was a very interesting character. I love Al to death. Rest in peace. But he was a character. So yeah, from like 2006 to when he passed away, like every deal that he bought went to me and a friend, and we had a ton of crazy stuff. And being with Al at the shows, he would tell us, he's like, "Yeah, I need to buy this card back. I sold it to a trash man." You know, he had some crazy story. Al's a good dude, but so I'd heard about the card. I'd never seen it because I wasn't around. I think he had sold it in like late 80s. So I'd never seen it until just at the National. But gorgeous card. Good story. It's a natural card, which is really good. I mean, that's always a bonus, right? It's a natural card. So, yeah, I love SGC. So that's my opinion on the card.
You were walking around National. Is there anyone, you know, I think you've gone to 20 Nationals. Like you've gone to a lot of shows, and I think you did shows as a kid. So you've seen the progression of the hobby. Is that fair to say, Jason?
Well, that I was actually telling someone at the show. I think I might hold the record. So this was obviously there was no National during COVID, but my first National was St. Louis '95.
Okay.
So I have not missed a National. So I've been to 28 straight Nationals. National, not Nationals. National. 28 straight.
It is 28 Nationals.
Yeah, it drives me nuts when people say I'm going to the Nationals. So I think I might have the record. Like there could be some old vintage dealers in the room, but there's a chance like maybe they would have missed a year. So I want to know if anybody's been to more Nationals in a row than 28, because that's kind of crazy.
They just announced 2025 is back in Atlantic City, so your streak will end.
My streak will end, and I don't think that's going to happen. I have a pretty good idea that's just from talking with.
It's not.
But by 2025, I'm guessing ownership might change too with some of the monopolies that have come along.
What is something that was at the first National that isn't there today that you would love to see?
Well, and I was a kid, but there was a lot more interaction. Like, I mean, there's the corporate area and stuff, but I vividly remember Anaheim, which was maybe 96, and there was like 3 massive rooms, and there was one full room that was all like, you know, one day Upper Deck had Montana and Marino, and they're like throwing passes to kids. And there was like all this, like they had batting cages, they had all this stuff. Like, if we did that, like at the Chicago place, they have the room on the other side when you walk in. And I know there's already a waiting list for a couple hundred dealers. If they filled that room and like the manufacturers did something, you know, Panini and all those guys want to do something crazy, obviously bringing more kids into the hobby is super important. And I just remember that, like, you know, that was 30 years ago or something. So I didn't wait in line to do it, but there was a whole room of like interactive, you know, like you can get free cards and stuff too. But I just think being involved with, I mean, how cool is it to be to get a pass from Joe Montana just from like waiting in line? So
do you think that doesn't happen? And Cage, I'll popcorn to you because I'm curious your thoughts. Like, because the demand is growing, because that there are more people, and with more people, there's more commerce. So it's like if I give this table away, I'm losing $20,000 or whatever the tables are. right back in '95. I don't know what the capacity was, but I can't imagine it's the same numbers we're doing today.
I think there's a difference between kids in the 90s and kids now. Because if you lined up Joe Montana in front of a row of 16-year-old kids at the National now, and I was a kid back then, and you said to me,
there.
okay, I just go with me here. But go back into the 90s, right? If you would have said to me, all right, you can get on one of two lines. Here's the line where Joe Montana throws you a pass, you catch it, and you give it back to him. He throws it to the person behind you on line. Or go to this line, and he's going to sign a ball for you. This way you can take it home and flip it and make some money. I would catch a pass from Joe Montana as a kid. I wouldn't be thinking about getting an autograph from him, and then what am I going to do with it? And I'm going to trade it. I'm going to go into the show and trade it for another card and do a flip life mug game, blah, 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 at the National. Whereas if you did that now, 80% of the kids there, if not more, are going to say, give me the ball. I don't even know who this geezer is, but I'm going to sell it to some old fart who likes Joe Montana, and I'm going to flip it into a Mac Jones card or whatever. Like, it's just a different world now. And also, people are paying money for this stuff. You know, I mean, more back then, you know, Montana would have been paid for that experience. So it's, you know, it's just a different world, man. Everybody thinks they're an entrepreneur now, even 12-year-olds.
Yeah, no, you see a lot more of it. It's crazy. I agree with you. Like like back then, I mean, I was going the first one or two just for the experience, and now you see people that like they want to buy, flip, hustle, and it's cool. It wasn't cool when I was doing it. Like buying and selling stuff was work. It was cool to like just get $100 from your dad and like go goof off. Now it's cool to do the flip life. So yeah, times have definitely changed.
You'd have to fix it up a little bit, right? Like to the National, like, you know what I would love, right? Because I don't give a shit about getting stuff signed from them, but give me a room where the kids from the Sandlot are there, and you could play catch with them. You know what I mean? Like that can't cost that much money, but you know, you're out there like have like a Sandlot game. You know what I mean? Like that would be fun, and they're not Joe Montana. You know,
it'd be cheap.
Like,
yeah, it'd be cheap. You could set that up.
Yeah,
I could set that up. I'll call Fitterman right now. We'll get that set up for next year.
There we go.
I'm curious. So like,
we did.
You're a busy man. You run one team. You have ISA grading. But when I reached out to you to be on the show, you're like, hell yeah! Like I could talk cards for hours. Where's your love for cards come from?
Oh, I mean, I've done this since I was 8 years old. Like anytime I've branched off into other stuff, and I've kind of pitched on my last pod, but like I've lost a ton of money, first of all, which is never fun. But like I didn't enjoy myself. You know, like I did all the real estate. I didn't enjoy it. Like even if I go through spans of making zero money, or like, I mean, the last year I've lost so much money in cards on paper. Like, I mean, a sick amount. I don't care. Like I still have 90. I've sold. The only time I sell stuff now is like, you know, a couple months ago, my wife's like, "Hey, I need a new Suburban." I'm like, "Okay, fine." Like, I got to find a couple things to sell, and like you just sit there for like a few hours and like, shit, like what do I get rid of because you don't want to sell anything.
Trading Jackie Robinson 6 for Suburban, you put out ads.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. Like it's like, okay, so yeah, I know people have said this before, but like literally, if I made 20 grand a year, I would still do this. Like I just love it. So like. And there's times when I'm making like major negative money and I'm still just going through the motions. And every now and then you'll get, you know, I feel like we all do this. You get a little stressed. You're like this, and then you kind of like come back down to earth and you're like, wait, like I get to play with baseball cards for a living. This is incredible. So like anytime I reground myself, and I only feel like that way, maybe twice a year, I get overwhelmed and I'm just like, I start to get stressed. And then I kind of have like a real moment where I realize, okay, like there's people that have real, you know, jobs, and that would suck. So, yeah,
so
I mean,
cards are your escape. God,
it's my everything. It's my whole life. It's everything. Like I love it. I mean, it's really cool now because, you know, 20 years ago you kind of had to hide it, right? It was an embarrassment. You always had to answer the follow-up question with like, oh, what do you do for a real work, or what do you really do for a living, or
People still ask you that now. You're Jason. You're an enigma. You have Hulk Hogan's at your house. Drake's chucking up 3-pointers. We're all wondering here, like, what does he do? I think it's now cool. It's the same question, but just different tone, right? It's like, You really do sports cards for a living? Now I'm like, this guy does sports cards for a living?
Consistency, be honest. Like, just like when you're flipping stuff, it's so easy. Like, everybody wants to crush people on a deal. And if you just tell somebody up front, like, hey, I want to make 20%. And then like 6 months later, when they like somehow, because it always comes back, like they'll talk to somebody else or something, and then they find out that like you were telling the truth, and then like, oh, okay, well that person's gonna trust you for life. It's in our businesses. I don't need to tell you how shady our business is, but every time someone gets a chance to like double or triple up on a deal, and I'm not saying I haven't bought deals where I've done really well, but now I've done such massive volume for so long that it's okay, like, to make 15, 20, 25%. But as long as you're telling somebody that, and then you're going to, some people you tell that to and they'll freak out. Like, it's crazy. It's like, yeah, I want to make 20%. And they're like, oh my God, well, okay, I have to make money. So I think just being upfront with people has built some really strong term relationships, and those people tell more people and those people tell more people. And then next thing you know, you're hanging out in Drake's kitchen. Like,
of course,
yeah,
that's how it works for Andrew.
Yeah, but it wasn't like, I feel like there's like a few people that hate me and there's a few people that like me, and it's in the middle of the road. But like the people that hate me think that like I just got lucky one day and landed in this. Like, I gave up all my 20. I gave up like most of I've worked since I was 12. Like this all didn't start happening until 5 or 6 years ago. Like, there was 15 years of grind and building relationships.
Do you think that you get a lot of hate? Because I think at the National, you don't see a lot of that in person, right? Like, I think that what the internet does is it magnifies the severity, and it may be a little bit of our own ego. Like,
in person at the shows, like at the National, I probably had 3 or 4 people come up and like apologize to me and be like, "Oh my God, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, I've talked shit in DM or whatever, and it's like, you're such a different person than I thought." And I was like, yeah, cool. Like, thank you. Really appreciate it. So in person, I get more love than people. But online, it's just like a free for all of, when you're kind of at this level.
I only saw one person who got actual in-person venom thrown at them, and it's this handsome guy right here. So at the trade night, someone walked up to him and was like just continuation of internet beef. Like, why are you coming after me like this? What's your problem with me? What's the deal? And I'm like, wow. Like, I didn't see this from anyone.
What I do.
Someone said that to you, Andrew?
Oh, yeah. What I do.
So I would love that though. Like, think how, like, I actually, like, I love the fact that when you, like, and you guys with the podcast, like, you've built something where if somebody else can make money off talking shit about you, which I've had, like, whether it's affiliate or whatever, like their thing is, if somebody can make money off of shitting on me, that's awesome. Like, good for them. Like, yeah, like, good. Like, that's awesome. Like, if I've built a platform where you can drive traffic by saying shit about me, like, I think that's the coolest thing ever. Like, and good
helping America.
Yeah, good for them. Good for them for doing that. Like, it's so cool. So yeah, I'm
Jason, hard to give some flowers. Who was at the show and they were killing it? Influencer, business, dealer, LCS, who was doing it the right way? And you're like, I kind of love what I'm seeing here.
So honestly, like, so we set up with the grading company. I was helping with that, and we were so busy with that, I only made it to the back part of the room once or twice. I think we took in the third or fourth most cards after PSA, Beckett, and then maybe SGC. Like, we took in, I think we took in like 3,100 cards for raw card review, and then maybe like a third of those came back to get slabbed. So I was busy at the booth, and every time I started to walk, I'd get a phone call and be like, hey, because I have 2 guys that have trained. Like, they can grade a lot of stuff, but there's certain stuff that I just want to look at just to make sure everything's properly. So, but when I did start to walk, it seemed overwhelming. Like, I was, the room seemed so big. I would stop to look at a booth, and then I'm like, there's just so much. I don't want to spend too much time here because the room just seemed overwhelming.
Opportunity cost. It's like, if I spend time here, I'm not spending time there. So you're like, I'm just gonna go back home. I'll go back to my home base, my booth.
Yeah, and like, I want to buy stuff, but at the National, everybody's always like, I don't want to say everybody, but most people are like 120% of retail. So it's like, it gives me ideas of what I want to buy. And then I'm like, okay, make a note. Like, that's a cool card. Like I want to get one of those. Or I just have a lot of guys too that will flip me stuff. Like, I don't need to be at the show. So I'll see him and like build relations. Like, hey, I got this deal. Yeah, send it to me when we're not dealing with this chaos. But it was just such a different environment too here because everybody still has money. Like, even though people have lost last year, like nobody's struggling. Like this same show, like I probably spent 15 or 20 grand in the room, like nothing. This same, like Atlantic City was what, 2017? I spent like 2.8 million in the room. And it was Saturday, Sunday of just people that needed to sell stuff, like buying booths out, had to do people sales.
People were desperate in 2017, so you were spending more. Did I catch that?
We are way more desperate. Like, yeah, everybody's had such a good run up that like they don't need to sell. Like, because for a while.
But invariably, Jason, that's the next step to that is something's going to give. Like, eventually, people are going to get desperate as cost of living is higher, gas is higher, inflation, all that, and then if unemployment comes the way that some people are predicting.
Right, we're not there yet. I mean, there was a lot more trading going on. But yeah, like we're so far from that desperate state that I've seen in the past of shows, which is good. Like it's the same thing. Like when PSA is crushing people, 20 years ago I'd get pissed, and then I realized no, this is a great opportunity. Like you guys keep crushing people, I'll keep buying 7s and 8s, and I'll wait for you guys to not be crushing people. Same thing when the market's like in this really bad spot and people are freaking out. That's great. I'll buy shit for 50 cents on the dollar when you're freaking out at shows. So I prefer it in that state. I made way more money in a national where I can spend that type of money, and because the sky was not falling in. And when somebody needs to sell, like when somebody sells their booth out, you're generally going to do well. I mean, if
they sell their whole booth, like they're at the end of the show, they're like, I'm done with this. I didn't sell enough. They're like,
so I mean, I bought, usually like at the very beginning of the show. So, and like, I know who's there. Like, I know all like, there's dealers that just like old time dealers, like they're there for the whole weekend. It's what they're doing. Like, you can't buy them out. But there's people that don't want to be there that you can buy them out Wednesday. And back in the day, that's what you would do is like when the National sold out and you needed a booth, like you would just find somebody and pay maybe close to retail on Tuesday night or Wednesday to get their booth. And you'd buy all their shit, and then you could then have a booth. That's how busy. Like in the late 90s, it was so hard to get national space. That's kind of how it is now.
So I heard buy out their inventory the day of to get their space.
Yeah, then you had a booth for the next fight. Like, I mean, I heard on the secondary market, booths are going for like 4,000 to 5,000, like before the show. And I think they're like 1,050 or so, whatever, 14, whatever it is before, through the national. But even like in the late 90s, it was a bigger premium. It was like so huge to have booth space. You would just. And it's different now too, because like somebody would come to the show and their entire inventory would be 50 grand. Now you look at someone's showcase and like one card's 30,000. So it's like it's just a completely different world. So on that, it's like there's so many 18 to 24-year-olds you're looking at their showcase and it's like this kid's got $1 million in his showcase. This
Chris Hodge thinks that they're taking over the hobby. If you ask Chris Hodge, the teenagers, watch out for them. They're running all over the place with their $1 million suitcases.
Yeah,
is that accurate, Cage?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's your grails are no longer going to be yours. They're going to be in the hands of a 16, 15-year-old.
Jason, let me ask you something. So ISA grading, right?
Yep.
We always do this thing in the hobby. It's called like good for the hobby, right? I love getting those DMs, and this is not good for the hobby. I love those because it's like what it's a spectrum, not an endpoint. So like I love more competition, even though there's issues with that, but I think that's better. How do you see it? Like, there's so many new grading companies now. You have Rare Edition with like their glass cases. There's so many grading companies. Are you like, I'm competing with them? How do you view that?
So there's good and bad. The bad is, and this was the bad is one of the reasons I pushed forward with this is so many people have come out that don't know what they're doing, and they're giving like I'm not going to say any names, but a couple of the newer ones I've looked at some of their RCRs or some of their holders and like. There's some really, really bad, either fake vintage, trim vintage, like, and that's what initially I was like, all right, like there needs to be someone who knows what they're looking at, and why it's good, and and you can't please everybody, right? Like there's going to be people that are diehard Beckett, diehard PSA. But an example at the show, someone was at our booth and they were going to try us out, and they were going to give us like 10 cards. They had like another 20 or 30 cards. They were about to go RCR at Beckett at like whatever, $100 a pop. And I was like, one of my guys just said, why don't you spend $10? We got one of the top experts. Have him give you a preview for $10. And a lot of the stuff had like back indentations. Because a lot of the newer stuff, the print quality is horrible. Not just centering, but there's a lot of indentations on the back that you can't see. So a lot of the stuff was 8s, 7.5s. So there was an initial frustration, and we leave notes on stuff like when there's a card you were expecting a 10, and we know what when the front of a card's perfect and there's a back indentation that you miss, and you get an 8, your initial response is fuck, like I just got screwed. But if you have information pointing to like okay, and you can see it, then you're like all right, I feel like at least. So we had people that were getting stuff back, and we saved them 90. I don't know what Becca was charging, but we saved them $90 a card. And it was kind of like this weird moment of like, damn, but they were also very thankful that they saved. And then same thing, if they would have sent to PSA, it would have been the same thing. Like they would have saved. So there's that. But it's hard to get brand recognition because a lot of people don't know that I'm associated with it. It's my I'm trying to get it out there. But on some of these other grading companies are scaling too quickly. They're bringing new people in that just don't know what they're doing. So, like, most of my collection is PSA, some ISA, some SGC. I have 0 Beckett in my collection, or maybe a few stragglers. But PSA it would be so hard for them to mess it up with like the monopoly that they have. So I think they're the safest to like hold. But I don't know. I mean, there's been some crazy. There's been some. I know. I can't even. I won't talk about it because it's. I know so much crazy PSA shit, and like it's literally, it's still the gold standard. So like to me, it'll always be the gold standard because it doesn't matter what happens. It just is what it is.
But we said that about Beckett in the early 2000s, right? It's funny how the tides shift. The winds of change, as the Scorpion said, right? That's the song. I
was shocked. Like in 2001, I was like, Beckett's not going to be around for 6 more months, and their name is so powerful that they've literally kept them around 6 months, and we're 22 years down the road, and like the name is so powerful. So, if you were running nationals or national, just one. It's an opt-in, right? 1 and 1. If you do a good job, you get the second year. I have a feeling you would. Okay, so you're running national. What's something you add next year at Chicago? Carpet.
Man, you guys with your carpet, Jesus! It's that bad on the knees.
Andrew, you're young. You're in shape. Like me and Kate, you got a little belly on you, right? Yeah, I mean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that concrete.
Huge difference. Huge
difference.
I mean, you add. You have a genie, and I could grant you 3 wishes. You carpet. What about like a continental breakfast with like muffins and coffee? No one proposes that.
No, I'll take carpet. No, I'll take carpet way over breakfast.
Your hips. It starts to hurt, man. I'm telling you.
My demo is incredible. It's marketing
rough.
To the card hobby. You learn a lot about you guys.
Nobody cares about a continental breakfast, dude.
Yeah,
I'm cares about mini muffins, cookies, and coffee and tea.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I don't eat. I try to eat like a little snack because I always do like a crazy meal at night. In Atlantic City, I had meetings and I had a 7:00 dinner and a 9:30 dinner every night.
So what do you order at the 7:00 dinner, and what do you order at the 9:30 dinner?
I always pigged out at the 7:00 dinner.
Nice.
Because I was starving, and then the 9:30 dinner was more of like pick off somebody's plate, dessert, like maybe like order an appetizer, but like, and then end up at the Borgata and getting silly. But honestly, I'm just happy it's in Chicago. I know there's people that don't feel the same way I do, and they like the rotation, but like Comic-Con's in San Diego every year. I would have it in Chicago the last week of July every year. I would have a booth. I would have a spot in the national setup where you could pre-buy your tickets, start booking hotels. If I was the national, you could pre-sell 50,000 tickets for a year out. like I would make it where you could just make it a family trip. You're planning the trip a year in advance, and but they won't do that because they get Atlantic City Convention Center for free. They get Cleveland for free. So that's why they rotate those cities.
Profit margin, right? I mean, if the venue's free, it's all profit. All right, last thing. Today it's Hulk Hogan's birthday, right? I know we're airing this tomorrow, Cage. I know, don't get mad at me. But how do you know him? How do you guys know each other?
So I've known Hulk. I met him 5 or 6 years ago through his agent, Darren Prince. I've known Darren so Darren and I go back from like the 90s, and he was a prick. And we always got into it because him and Mark Murphy were like they were the baseball card kid. I don't know if you remember Mark Murphy. And I was the young guy. Like I was killing it, but they were like the guys. And, I'm probably like 14, 15. He's like, 23, 24. And he was just a total asshole. So we got into it a few times. So we didn't talk to each other for like 20 years. And he was all messed up on pills and just total drug addict. He got sober in 2010. And he made amends with and he came to me. And
we call that catching strays on this show. Catching strays.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. So we've all had our issues. But he got clean, and we started to reconnect, and we became really good, really, really close. Darren's one of my best friends. Hung out with Hulk a couple times. And generally, like when I'm with these people, I never ask for anything. Like they're so used to just like constantly getting hit with crazy requests. And like my approach has always been like, how can I help? Like, what can I do for you? Like, how can I help you out? Like, and a lot of these guys do like other sports. It's usually other sports. And it's like, can I help you not get fucked? I don't need to make money off you. And generally what has happened then is years later, I end up somehow making money off them. Or if I need a favor, it's not even a favor. It's like, I wish you would ask me sooner. So that's kind of been my approach. And I hate asking for favors to the point now where like I'll have people come to me and like, they're like, Ryan Fitterman's a perfect example. He's connected with the WWE really, really tight. And I one of my kids wanted to go to WrestleMania last year, and I just couldn't. I knew he had a suite, and he was so pissed at me for not asking him. But I'm like, Ryan, I'm not. He's like, okay, well, next year you're 100% coming out. And I was like, all right, I'll bring my boys out to WrestleMania. But like, it kills me to ask, and I think that's kind of because I just when I'm around these people, I see just it's crazy, man. Everybody just wants, whether it's a photo pic, it's just constant, and it just got to. I would never. That life would be fun if you were single for like a week, and then it would really, really suck. Like it's really lonely. It would be really depressing.
Andrew, if you could through Jason or whatever ask Hulk Hogan one question, what would it be?
If I could ask Hulk Hogan one question,
I know mine right off the bat. Because I'll just throw it out there while you're thinking, or maybe I'll just take the question and answer it myself.
How you doing? I'll just say,
what does he think about the fact that on Collectible there is a market for Andre the Giant's jockstrap? That's what I'd want to know what he thinks about that. Do you know that there is a Andre the Giant's jockstrap is for sale? I mean, it's like traded
on Rally or collectible?
Collectible. Yeah.
No, I didn't. I will bring that up next time.
So now when you're going to ask Hulk for something, basically what you got to do is you got to get his jockstrap.
He gets emotional. We've talked about it. He gets kind of emotional talking about Andre. It's weird. It's like, yeah, him and
He's a very respected guy, Andre, in the in wrestling. All those guys, they all speak very, very fondly of him. Gentle giant, man.
Yeah. It's just, I've heard some crazy stories. I mean, it's weird too. Like, just there's been some times where we're like, just one-on-one for like 45 minutes, and just it's weird. Like you actually get to meet a human. And the thing with Hulk too is almost every show he's at, he's had 10 or 11 back surgeries now. So I see this guy behind the scenes, just in so much pain, and like almost, and he turns the curtain, and he just turns on him. He turns on Hulk, and to watch it flip, and then as soon as he leaves the curtain, it's just like, it's crazy. Like to see him turn it on and off like that. And I mean, yeah, it's interesting to see how these guys go from being human to superhuman and back to human. And it's like, That's why
step into a new character, right? You step into a new character.
Yeah,
people could do that with their lives too. I don't. Sometimes the one quote I love, a few years ago, it hit me. Joe Rogan, right? Like you could always turn the new page and start writing a new chapter. I always think to that, but like they step into a new character and it completely changes their state.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys had a heck of a career though, just with the wrestling and then outside of it. I mean, Thunder Lips, right? He was, in the Rocky movies, right? He was in Rocky 3, and then he was, he had his own movies, right? No Holds Barred, where him and Zeus, right? And he's doing the wrestling stuff. He had a TV show, right? Tropic Thunder, and I mean, just a reality TV show. I mean, just
he had the one with the family, Nick and Brooke and Crazy Linda.
I mean, just talk about a full life. The lawsuits. Yeah. I mean, just like interesting stuff.
Yeah, he's had some crazy shit. Great guy.
What was you never answered. What was your percentage of getting PSA 10s when you cracked the 9 Jordan Fleers?
I've gotten a lot of 10s. I mean, I've probably hit, what's the pop, like 315, 320?
Yeah, like 320.
Yeah, I've probably hit 100 10s of the pop.
For me, I've heard it's frowned upon, but it makes no sense why. The crack and resub culture of the hobby is literally the most fun. I have so much fun doing it. I can't explain it. It feels like craps a little bit.
Well, I think it's funny because like I invented it, and now like
here we go.
I invented it.
45 minutes in.
I invented it, and like
that's the record for going to nationals. And
I invented the 2-hour like at the PSA, like the 2-hour service. Like I wanted stuff back. Like so, I'd submit like 3,000 or 4,000 cards on site. And our rate was $20, which is hilarious because, like, I don't know, what was it? It's like 5,000, 10,000 a card now. So
yeah, I think it's up to 12,000. I think on site, if it was a card that's more than $249,000, I think it's a 12,000. I think it's 6,000 up to 249, like on site. One of those. Yeah, I mean,
it's so great. It's so great because even off like in the early 2000s, like I remember they would call me and they would call me like, we need cards. I'm like, how many? Like, can you get us 10,000 cards this week? I'm like, okay, how much? They'd say $2.80, and I'd say $1.80, and then we'd meet at like $2.40 a card. I mean, that's how crazy.
They needed cards to get so that they wouldn't lay off their workers.
Yeah, they just wanted to keep it rolling.
And they're like, Jason, hey, can you get us these cards? Jason,
I mean, there's probably
you invented group subbing too.
There was me and probably like there's probably 10 guys that were submitting a lot. Like I was one of their top 3 submitters from probably maybe like 97, 98 to 2010. But no, at the shows, like I was tired of waiting, and obviously at shows, for the most part, it felt like you got a little better grades. So I was like, let's do 2-hour service, and they came up with a price, $50 a card, get your stuff back in 2 hours rather than wait. So anyway, back to the crack and resub. It was just everybody was just so accepted. Like you go out and buy 100 Griffey Upper Deck 9s that are really nice 9s. And people like were confused. They're like, no, it's a 9. And I was like, yeah, it's a 9, but it's a nice 9. So like, what happens if you crack out 100 nice 9s? You're going to get 15 10s, 50 or 60 9s, 20 or 38s, some trims, some like, 5. You're going to get some 5s. Like, it just is what it is. And then you crack all that out again. And then you send to SGC or Beckett. So, yeah, but like we never videoed this. I have some video, like I got to do it like a thing, but of probably just thousands of holders of plastic laying on the ground. And back in the day, now they're way more. The security is a lot tighter on those. But I used to be able to crack a card out like every 2 or 3 seconds, just boom, 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 boom. Now the PSA kind of has like it's like
I'm picturing the bartender commercial where you're just opening like 40 beers down the road.
It was quick. And then the hotel. So one time there was a Houston show, and we cracked out so much stuff. I don't know if it's because they were grading bad or what was the deal, but we had the whole floor of the hotel room was covered in plastic, and like if you've ever stepped on it, it hurt. Like it was like get into your feet. And we're like, I'm like 20 years old, so. My first at that time wasn't let's clean it up. It was let's take the heavy comforters from the beds and lay it over like a landfill, so we don't get our feet cut in plastic anymore. And then of course we start like putting plastic over it. So we had like 2 layers of landfill of plastic on the floor, cracked out like 3,000, whatever it was. And then I just left. We leave the hotel. I put like $1,000 tip on the table. Like, sorry. I kind of don't wish I did that as a kid. But
it's amazing, right? The whole This is Andrew's like favorite part. It really
there's
is.
plastic on my floor.
I
just walk over it. It's mental toughness.
He will get
mental
a mail
toughness,
day.
Walking on fire. I walk on slabs.
He'll get a mail day. Everything's already slabbed, and then the Mamba mentality will kick in, and he'll be like, "Oh no, look at this one. Job's not finished."
Is it crack?
One in the crack?
Is it crack and send it back to the same company, or crack and send it to a different company?
It depends. It depends on the card. It depends.
Look, it's funny that you're doing it, because like people ask me about this now, and I say the game's over. Like the game. Like for me, it was like me and 3 or 4 other people doing it, and it was like everywhere you went, it was like all stuff ready to be cracked out. And now it seems like there's thousands of people doing it, and
we're getting Jason. Just cut to the chase. We're getting your sloppy seconds. That's what you're trying to say.
I mean, when I believed in stuff, like I would crack stuff out over and over. And I mean, I've tried stuff a lot when I believed in it. I remember I did a McGuire 9 one time. By the time I got it into a 10, I lost money.
Is that the 1985 one? That one's very iconic, Jason. That's at least 99th iconic card.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be like that was a $5,000 10 at one point, 5,000 or 6,000 in a 10. And then I think
McGuire card.
Yeah, and then it got down to like $175.
Yeah,
and that was
way back up.
Yeah,
that was a $200 raw card.
Yeah, we were selling them on TV for like $4.99 or some crazy shit. Like that was a crazy card.
That was the old whatnot selling them on TV.
Yeah, that was Ken Golden up there, like
I mean, it's crazy the cycles of the hobby, but the cracking and resubbing, it's fun that's gambling. It's a gamble.
Well, it's gambling, but you have a floor. At least you get your card back if you're not terrible at it.
And the other thing is now with the fees higher, it's a lot more risky. Like, back in the day, you only needed like a couple big hits to make your weekend, and now there was no. The other thing too is there was no upcharges back then. So like the margins, like to me the game's over. Like that's why I'm like semi-retired. I'm focusing on ISA. I'm not really grading that much anymore. I have all my good stuff put away.
It's a different game. So you're playing basketball on a private court in your home. Andrew's playing basketball at like Atlantic City in the court behind the Claridge. Like he could still make some baskets, but it's a different sport. Like he's cracking.
I've got to look over my shoulder, but
he's hoping for SGC 9s.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it's a different crack game that he's doing.
Yeah, When I played the game, it was a guarantee. Like it was almost a guarantee you were going to make money. It was just a question of like what was the multiplier going to be. But I mean, everything's there. Like 86 Flair, a Jordan 10. Like I was paying like 10 to 15,000 a box. My downside was like 3,000. My upside was like 150,000. Like I'll flip that coin all day long, and I did. And people would sell me boxes, and I think they just thought I had like a wax problem, like I was a degenerate opener, and they were probably like, this guy's got an issue. Like he's cracking this shit, not realizing that you pull an Alvin Adams 10 at the time, it covered the entire box. Like there was a ton of common, like obviously Johnny Moore, Jeff Malone, but there was Lewis Lloyd was a $15,000 10. Dominique Wilkins was a $50,000 10.
Gerald Wilkins is rare as hell too. I mean,
Jared's hard. I mean, there's a lot of tough cards.
So Jason, in that case, let me see if, and a few people have talked about how the corporate center of the National is getting bigger. Is the little guy getting squeezed out? The $1 billion question, and the corporations are winning, but at the expense of the everyday, Joe and Shmo?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. The cool thing is there'll always be opportunity there, right? It's just I think the floor is low. I just think there was more money to be made we're definitely more corporate. It feels very corporate now. And like, I didn't make a lot off the wax, but like some of these distributors, I mean, they made like they got wealthy in the last 5 years. Like that's all going to go away in the next couple of years, but it doesn't matter because they already got like not rich, like wealthy, and like that they never should have, like that was crazy. Like they never should have made that much money, but like the distributor or the manufacturers were so lazy that they just let for 5, 10, 20 years, like all these distributors just get wealthy. So real money came in, they cleaned that up, and the real money is like, okay, well, we're going to fix that. Same thing, grading came in. They're like, well, these guys are paying $8 to get a card graded, and they're making $20,000. Like that's not right. So they've come in, and big money's come in, and they're fixing that, and as it should. Like, yeah, I think the game's over for a lot of stuff, but
it doesn't mean. Think about that for a second. Think about what Jason just threw down there, and guys, listen, because it's a fun little national treasure episode. It's what makes Jason a treasure. We think about it as the corporations are coming in, and they're gonna take the middleman out, the evil distributor middleman that has raised the price of getting wax from what the manufacturer did to what it actually gets into your hands. Well, if you peel back the layer of that onion, for a while there, we were also the middleman as part of the hobby. We who were grading raw cards at $8 a card and taking a $10 card with an $8 grade and selling it for $300, $400, or $1,000. And it didn't take long for just like, fanatics to maybe come in and get rid of distributors, where the grading company realized, okay, we have to right size how much it costs to grade. How we can't charge them $8 if they're going to sell these cards for this much. You get your upcharge, you get this stuff. And basically that middleman was us. And that's why Jason's saying the game is over. They thought they figured out the spot where it's like, where can we squeeze them, like, to make their just pucker up to the point where they're still going to use this, but they're going to fucking hate it. And that's where they're at. And good for them, because that's where they should have been 20 years ago, but they're not. So a lot of people took advantage of that. But yeah, and like they do have the risk too. Like they grade a $20,000 card, and like it gets creased or something. And but yeah, I mean they're the ones that made the market. Like you'd never be able to sell a Kobe Z-Force 10 for $13,000 if PSA didn't exist. So, correct. I mean, it's a love-hate relationship.
It's the National Treasure Series. Any last message? So what I've realized, Jason, as we've done 700 episodes of this, we talk to the card hobby, to the hard card community, but we also speak to young entrepreneurs, people who love business and the hustle and figuring things out. Any messages from you, seasoned vet, record holder, for our community?
I mean, I don't want to be cliche, but like I feel like younger people have so much time, and they're all looking at these big hits and these breakers hitting. Like they want to buy a card for. This reminds me of like my 18-year-old cousin talked to me like a couple months ago, and I'm trying to help him with life advice. And ultimately, what he said to me was, he wanted to build his portfolio. This was just life in general, not cards. He wanted to build his portfolio, and he'd love to like buy a house for $1 million, fix it up, and sell it for $2 million. And I looked at him. I go, Matt, did you just tell me like you want to buy a house? I'm like this is how delusional some people are, and I feel like that's what in our hobby. It's like they're distracted by these big hits where like, it's not real. It's not reality to like get lucky and buy a deal for $50K and sell it for $200. Like focus on the cheaper stuff. It's way safer. It's like it's easier to double up on a $100 deal than it is to enroll all that stuff over. And like it's available. Like if you go around the national, like there's deal. Like if you put the work in dollar boxes. And here's another thing. We never talked about this, but if you have your internet handy, where you can not possible. Right, not possible.
My conference doesn't have internet. I want people to talk to each other face to face. Elbow pump at the bathroom.
But yeah, so if you had internet, you can go through stuff and figure out if and buy some stuff in dollar boxes, $5 boxes, and make money that way. So I would just become like a crazy expert and know that like the people who did really well at the show are the people that knew the prices. Like if you knew the prices and you were dealing with somebody who didn't realize that something had gone up or down, you could sell it I don't know if that's considered screwing them if like they're willing to pay for it. Because like
it's usually the kids that know all these comps by heart. They can rattle them off like this.
Trust me, like when
Trey Lance Phoenix at a 42, gotcha, $603. Like boom, boom, boom.
all the new stuff. I have 5 people on speed dial. That's my new.
Who are they?
I can't.
On that list?
Can't divulge that.
I can't divulge that, but I have experts on this newer stuff where I can text or call and like boom, I can have like today some goofy Jordan card number to 8 that I have no freaking idea on the comps. They're like, that's worth 22,000. I'm like, okay, I trust them. Where vintage stuff, I have a pretty good idea, and like it hasn't really moved. It doesn't move the way the modern, like the modern stuff's crazy. So, I mean, if you showed up to the National and you hadn't been doing anything for like 2 or 3 months, you could have got taken a bath, or like, if you knew the prices, you did well. If you didn't know the prices, you were kind of stale. So, I guess my advice is just become a crazy expert and whatever, and focus on, you know, pick a sport and then kind of build out from there. Like I remember, I just really quick, like I remember, you know, being that young person and at the time knowing the Kobe's and all that stuff and looking at the vintage guys when I was like 14 or 15, and they could look at a 55 tops or 54 tops and like tell what year it was. And I thought that was the craziest thing in the world. I was like, oh my God, there's all these years. Like, how can they just look at that card and know it's a 6? And now, like, you know, I could name players and card numbers and shit. You just know. You know who are the short prints. You know who are the tough ones, the great, all that stuff. But, you know, that just takes years of learning all that. Like, something as simple as knowing the year of a card, I thought was crazy. And now it seems pretty common knowledge to look at something and be like, oh, well, that's this. But, yeah.
Jason, our National Treasure Series. I want to take your advice. Who would you recommend? You've met a lot of people at National. Who have we not had on that you think would be an amazing guest for this series?
It's only just cards, right? Or do you what do we do memorabilia, or just do we do like?
Of course. I'm even thinking of getting into non-sport. You know, I want to diversify, learn a little bit.
Ooh, gonna do a little Magic the Gathering, pal.
I mean, it depends who talks to me into it and what the incentives are.
I mean, let me actually take time and I'll message you a list of like people who I think, rather than being on the spot and just throwing out a name.
And I love the follow-up. Luca Nation.
It's what we do. We put people on the spot. You know, we stop
Otias Sports.
Have you had Breakers? I don't know if he'll do it because he's kind of like sailed off in the sunset he's made a fortune, but Adam from Breakers Rose he's done really well. Super smart guy.
We reached out to him, and he doesn't even break his own cards anymore. He has his kids open the packs for him. So he's like, you could have my kid on. He could talk about the Cade Cunningham that he.
That's what I'm saying. He's pretty far removed. I mean, but he came up on he's a Michigan guy. So
remember we took to Josh Luber. And he showed us the we haven't but he showed us the black hunting. That was Breakers Row who pulled it. Remember he mentioned that his son
his kid pulled it like a couple days ago. Yeah. That'd be nice. Like your kid just pulls a $100,000 card, like kind of screwing around.
Do people usually, like how you win a big hand in poker and you break the dealer off? Do they do that in the hobby?
Like to your kid?
No, like so.
Yes.
Okay, so you know when you win a huge hand in poker, you tip the dealer in a cash game. Like, let's say I pull a huge card. Is it customary to tip the breaker who pulled it?
That's a good question. I have no idea. Like, I never. I mean,
that's the hard-hitting questions. This is the best podcast in the hobby for a reason.
I think you should. Like, I mean, I think of it big enough. Like, if I hit like one of those, like when you like those $2 million cards. What was the last $2 million card that everybody thought was $6 million? The triple LeBron?
Triple LeBron. Not the LeBron, Kobe, and Jordan, which a lot of people would say is more revered.
The people who sold that, they did tip the dealer, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say on a card like that, you should just maybe like a 1% or so. I'll give you 1% of the sale price. Like, I think that's cool.
Backyard Break got a Lamborghini as a tip, and Ken Golden got a buyer's premium as a tip. I mean, everybody's getting tipped.
Ken Golden did not pull that card. Nice try. Next question.
Yeah, everybody got a piece of the pie except for but technically the breaker gets they get a lot of advertising. So technically, they're getting. I don't know if you need to tip them. I would Let
us know in the comments. Do you tip the breaker if you pull fire, or if they pull fire for you?
And all of the stuff the breakers have been doing to say we're not blackjack dealers, we're not gamblers, and proof like that, Andrew, just undoes it all.
Well, here's the
Like,
blessing.
so-
I don't break, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
I own half of a braking company, and for the first 5 or 6 years, we were like, stay away from the G word, don't talk about, and now it's just like nobody cares. But I remember we were like in 2015, it was a concern. We thought everybody was going to freak out.
Dude, we're breeding like G word. Like the gamblers are 2040, man. This is going to be a problem because
Yeah.
I mean, FanDuel is like DraftKings. It's everywhere. 18 years old. Go bet your money on.
Fantasy's coming up. It's exciting times. I'm in some fun leagues.
Is that right? What's the biggest league you're in?
Well, the buy-in's $25K, but the side action is really it does. So
you guys are sick at your level.
But the side action is silly compared to the it's win or lose a couple $100,000 on the side. Like we don't even play for the buy-in. Like it's that way you can sweat every it's fun. It's fun. It's stressful.
I mean, my next comment was I think your entire life is a gamble. And I think you are the iron stomach. I think you have an iron stomach.
Meanwhile, thank you for filling it in because I didn't realize what the hell you're talking about. He said he owned half a breakers company, stayed away from the G word, and I'm like, yeah, Goodwin champion. It's not that bad of a break.
Gambling.
You're talking about gambling. Okay, I know.
Goodwin champion. Cage just wants to be on the card, and you will be.
The G word.
People already coming up asking for your autograph. It's only logical. The next step is we get you on a card, Jason. We'll have to have you back, not for Godfather 3 because that movie sucks. Godfather 4.
I'll come back. I'll come back. If you have me on at 10 o'clock, I'll stay on for as long as you want. I'll come back on as much as you guys need me.
We have an everyday podcast, so I think our Luca Nation, they know how wacky our night sessions are. I'm a little bit weirder after 9 p.m. That's just the fact.
I'd be fun. I think it'd be fun to do like have people do a Q&A or like put out questions for like 3 months and then come back on in 3 months and just like plow through it. Because I feel like we're in our own little whatever, and it'd be interesting to like hear the people's questions and just fire away.
The Q&A, those are our most listened to episodes. I, as a producer, have done a terrible job keeping them going, Cage.
I'm ready to go whenever you want. You know that. I'll answer anybody's questions about anything. So it is.
Yeah, I think it's fun.
Jason's got better answers, and he's been doing this for a long time. Record holder at the National.
I think so. I think 28. Well, 27 because of COVID, but yeah, 27, 28 years in a row. So
I love you, Luca Nation.
So thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo My. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month, and many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. As people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days, have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, simple as that, and the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is. 9170 Glades Road, number 135 is the P.O. Box in Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. 9170 Glades Road, number 135, Boca Raton, Florida 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com, or my cell phone number 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luca Nation.